The pressure explodes across the Klondike as Parker pushes harder than ever. Tony fights rising chaos and Kevin beats Gams big on a familiar face with a brand new smile. Season 16 of Gold Rush is already running hotter than a wash plant on overload. And Episode 4, Buzz in the Hills, raises the stakes for every mine boss in the Yukon. With gold prices soaring and looming deadlines pressing down on the crews, every decision counts and every mistake threatens to cost these miners millions. There's a buzzing energy at Parker Schnabel's Dominion Creek camp, an undercurrent of pressure that even the crew feels in their bones. Parker stands in front of maps and permits with the look of a man who knows every lost day now could cost him weeks later. 3 weeks into the season, he has already stacked up more than $2 million worth of gold. Most miners would savor that number, but to Parker it's barely the starting line. With his Sulphur Creek water license nearing expiration, he feels the walls closing in. He's determined not to repeat the kind of bureaucratic nightmare that nearly crushed Rick Ness. So Parker lays down an aggressive goal. Sulphur Creek must start producing gold before the weekends. No excuses, no delays, no mistakes. His foremen Mitch Blask and Brennan Rue take the challenge heeding. They push their machines into the soil like their lives depend on it, carving through overburden and revealing the ancient pay beneath. The noise of steel, diesel, and determination fills the air. Morale runs high, but so does the risk. Then comes the most difficult task, moving the massive wash plant Roxanne across 25 miles of harsh, unforgiving Yukon terrain. The plant rattles and sways as the crew crawls through sharp inclines, deep ruts, and narrow paths where a single misstep could cause catastrophic damage. Every operator knows they're one slip away from disaster. Hours stretch into days and the tension builds until finally the plant arrives. Roxanne stands tall and ready at Sulphur Creek. When the plant fires up and the pay starts flowing, the crew gathers with an uneasy mix of hope and exhaustion. And then Parker sees the first gold from the new site. Far from being disappointed, he actually seems pleasantly taken aback. The initial yield is far better than he expected for such a rushed operation. It reignites him. By the end of the week, with 3 wash plants ripping through pay, the numbers come together like a miner's dream. 527 ounces of gold worth $1.1 million in a single week. And more importantly, Parker realizes he's now over a 0.000 ahead of last year's pace. His ambitious 10,000-ounce target suddenly feels less impossible. But in the Yukon, every victory is temporary, and Parker knows the ground never stays friendly for long. Over at Indian River, Tony Beats moves through his claim with the swagger of a man who has pulled more gold from this land than almost anyone else alive. He's sitting on 775 already. A king defending his crown, but the Yukon has never cared about crowns. News arrives that cousin Mike has to leave for Europe immediately, forcing Tony to promote Jacob Moore to foreman. The timing couldn't be worse. The early bird cut, one of the season's major targets, has to be expanded by 9 acres. The exposed pay lies vulnerable and unprotected. Then nature strikes. Spring water rushes in faster than Jacob expects, filling the cut like a rising tide. Pumps sputter. Mud starts swallowing the ground. Equipment sinks. The pay, once glistening with promise, disappears beneath murky water. The crew tries to keep it at bay, but the Yukon floods don't care about schedules for gold targets. Tony arrives, surveying the waterlogged mess with a heavy scowl. He doesn't explode, but his disappointment is unmistakable. Though clearly frustrated, he chooses not to tear into Jacob. Instead, he gives him another chance, a quiet challenge to step up and prove himself. But the chaos isn't done with them. Later, Tony hears an odd rattle echoing through the wash plant sleet. It's the kind of noise that sends a miner's stomach dropping. He climbs the plant and discovers something far worse than he imagined. Bolts have worked themselves loose, cracking the tailing chutes and destabilizing the shaker deck. Left unnoticed, the plant might have ripped itself apart mid-run. Days, maybe weeks, would be lost. Tony wastes no time. He calls the crew together and the welders get to work immediately. Sparks fly. Steel groans. The plant undergoes emergency surgery as the sun dips behind the mountains. The fix works. The disaster is narrowly avoided. During the weigh-in that follows, the tension from the week finally breaks. Tray after tray of gold lands on the scale. By the time the numbers settle, the Beets family realizes they've crossed a major milestone, more than 1,000 ounces for the season. With $250.70 coming from this week alone, worth a staggering $878,000. Despite floods and mechanical catastrophes, Tony's mind pushes forward with relentless force. The king remains the king. But at Scribner Creek, things look very different. Kevin Beets, in only his second year as a mine boss, is already wading through more problems than he expected. The season begins with promise. His initial stockpile pays out a solid 100 ounces in the first 2 weeks, but the momentum evaporates quickly. Pay runs thin. The stockpile dwindles and his crew begins disappearing. First Brennan leaves. Then Caden Foote joins Parker's operation. What was once a buzzing site now feels hollow. Faith Tang works beside him day after day, equally aware of how fragile everything has become. Their father isn't here to save them. Their equipment can't operate itself. Their 2,000 target feels increasingly out of reach. Kevin needs help. He needs manpower. He needs someone capable, someone steady. And then unexpectedly, help arrives. Familiar truck rolls into camp. The door opens and out steps Buzz Larago. Last seen working on Rick Ness's constantly collapsing crew. But Buzz looks different, more confident, lighter, as if the weight that used to drag him down has finally lifted. He explains that he took time off, traveled to Mexico, and even got his teeth fixed. More importantly, he admits he needs stability now. Real stability. With a baby on the way. He can't afford the uncertainty that plagued his time under Rick. He doesn't say it harshly, but the message is clear. Rick's operations simply wasn't a place he could count on anymore. Kevin listens. Faith studies him. What they need isn't just a worker. They need someone who can do it all. Someone who can take pressure off Kevin's shoulders so he can focus on moving into the pyramid cut. After a beat, Kevin makes the call. Buzz becomes their new foreman. And not a moment too soon. The pyramid cut requires the most terrifying move of Kevin's mining career, relocating his only $250,000 wash plant down a slope, through uneven ground, and then up a steep 30 degrees incline. If the plant tips over, the season ends on the spot. Buzz jumps in immediately. Working alongside Kevin, he helps assess the angles, the risks and the backup plans. When their excavator can't pull the plant safely, Kevin switches strategies and brings in the massive D10 dozer, one of the only machines powerful enough for the job. The dozer grumbles, the cables strain, the wash plant shutters. The entire crew holds their breath, and then slowly, the plant begins its climb. Inch by inch, they guide it up the slope, pushing past tension, fear and fatigue. By the time the wash plant settles into its new home at the pyramid cut, Kevin feels something shift inside him. For the first time all season, he isn't alone. Before the big relocation, the crew's final stockpile adds up to $56.590, worth nearly $200,000. It isn't enough to guarantee success, but with Buzz now in the mix, Kevin feels more hopeful than he has in weeks. Episode 4, Buzz in the Hills, captures everything that makes Gold Rush compelling. Brutal setbacks, stunning triumphs, risky decisions, and the quiet humanity of miners chasing dreams buried under hundreds of feet of dirt. This week, Parker powers forward like a man trying to outrun time itself. Tony wrestles with water and machines, but refuses to let either dictate his season. Kevin finds an unexpected ally in a returning miner, whose loyalty may be the key to saving his operation. The Yukon is alive this season. Fickle, dangerous, rewarding, punishing. And as the miners pushed deeper into their claims, the hills buzzed louder than ever with the promise of gold and the threat of collapse.